guys.
I don't know whether or not to call this an actual episode right now. It's Tuesday. It's supposed to be episode 61. Luke is in the high Sierras with Marshall, and we thought we had a better connection than we really did. And so Luke has been bouncing in and out of the backstage before 6:30, but it is now 6:30 and now we are live. So at this point, we're just rocking with it. We're seeing how long we're going to go. We're seeing whether or not we'll actually continue this. But yeah,
Well, is
good
he
to
gonna be
see
able to
you.
hop on? Are you gonna let him hop on if he tries?
Yeah, I'm going to let him hop on if he tries. I haven't seen him backstage though. So there's nothing to hop on to. I don't even
So
know.
we talked earlier, and the connection was great. We
Here's
were talking
Marshall.
for like a cool 30 minutes.
The good thing is now we
My
have Marshall.
man, what's up?
We just got back.
I know. We're trying to get Luke on here, and he keeps bouncing back and forth.
His connection's not good.
No.
It was good earlier.
Should I
Well,
call him and have him come over?
the government only has, good internet between, daytime hours. You heard about that one, right?
How far is he from you?
Yeah, I think he's like 8 minutes away. Should I just tell him to come over here? I think he's like 8 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Oh, well. Might have lost him too.
All right, guys.
He probably went to go send Luke a text.
Yeah.
And
All right, guys. Well,
he
we're gonna
backed out.
continue. Meanwhile, they get here. But what a weekend! What a eventful weekend.
Yeah, we've had a lot go down in the last month, in the last week. So big kudos to us, big pat on the back. As par usual, it's good to see everybody. The LA Fish Alliance event was a lot of fun. Really, it
LA
went
Fishing Fest.
fishing fest. Sorry, went really well in my mind. I thought it was a lot of fun. A lot of people showed up, and it was really cool to see everybody. So that was enjoyable for me, just because there's a lot of people who I don't necessarily get to have a face to face conversation with, and it's cool to see them.
What did he say, Marshall?
I just texted him, so I'll see if he ends up coming. I sent him my address, so he can come if he wants.
So yeah, guys, we're just talking about the weekend. Marshall, we went out to LA Fishing Fest. We had LA Fishing Fest on Saturday, which was pretty awesome. And Daniel did very well.
Love to hear that.
I mean, don't brag to people like
He
that.
did very well.
You know what I did? I sold my pop-up, my tables, my chairs. I actually sold the car too, along with it. I mean, cleared out.
Okay. Nice, dude. That's great.
It was a learning experience. There was a lot that I can take away from the event, which is great. I'm excited to feel like I'm in a position to where I go, okay, let's get branded pop-up gear. Let's
Yeah.
get tablecloths. Let's really make a layout for a booth, and feel like I can, if I had a better booth layout and really methodically thought about things would go smoother and better, which is a good place to be, but also just a milestone that I wasn't really thinking about until you actually hit it, which is cool. So I can't complain.
Sweet,
That
man.
was good. How did it go for you guys?
We're just getting started. Here, let me text Luke back real quick. He just sent me a message. I think he's gonna head over here, so
okay.
I'm gonna text him the Wi-Fi password.
All right, Charlie, tell us about iRod. Tell us about you. How was the event? You did a lot more walking around than I did. I was kind of centrally located. How did the event go for you? Because I was stuck behind my booth.
Yeah, Greg said it well. It's like I was trying, Greg. I was trying, but I did walk around. Everybody was having a good time. A lot of booths had a lot of movement. I know Stay Bent had a lot of people visit his booth. Toxic Baits, big shout outs to Caesar and John. they had good outcomes. Dixie Rec, if you guys know who Dixie Rec is, Dustin, big shout outs to you. He did very well. He was almost right next to us. And Irod did very well. Slow pitch, Reaper slow pitch with Jordan. Jordan was handling that booth very well. Big shout outs to Jordan. Nangled and Tangled. And then I walked over to you, and it was just like amazing to see, man. It was a lot of people around your booth. You know, you were giving little seminars about how to rig your stuff, which was pretty cool. I know Luke was talking about, you were talking after with him, and he said at the end you didn't have anything to sell, so you were just talking about your baits, which is pretty cool. But I was at the IRA booth, and let me tell you guys, it felt, and Liquid Assassins for sure. I can't forget about them. And Reyes Swim Baits. Big shout outs to them too.
Yeah, I stopped by Gary's booth to give him some stuff. I gave him some 1 ounce belly weights. I wanted to
Gotcha.
give him 2 ounces, but I realize now that the 2 ounces don't really fit on the 8-aughts all that well. So it's really, might be able to push 1.5 ounces, but I think ounce is really going to be that factor, that
So yeah.
wiggle.
So hung out with Gary for a bit, talked to Dean. Benny, if you saw Benny, he was just up and down, right?
I
He was just
know. Benny went missing.
he
There
was
was
just
people
like up
hey,
and down,
where's Benny? Where's Benny? And I was just
trying to
like,
make
dude,
sure
Benny is
trying to make
just
sure everything was well.
Benny's in the ether right now. He's just making sure that nothing's getting like
Nothing's
we're
getting
not getting any
hiccups.
tickets or anything.
I think the sound was acting up a little bit, but they got it taken care of. And I was hanging out at the IRA booth, man. Let me tell you guys, it feels very well to sell something that you really believe in. And I believe in what I fish, you know? It was amazing. It's an amazing experience to hand somebody something that you've been fishing for a while, and they feel the same way after you talk to them. So big shout outs to Irod. I enjoyed hanging out with T from Fish All Brand. He was the one, and Bubba. We've had Bubba on the show before, so awesome
I was just
to
about to
see.
ask, is it the same?
Yeah,
I didn't know Bubba was there. I wish I had the time to really go to
dude, you were
every
busy,
booth.
man. You were
It's
busy, and it's
my thing is
understandable.
like this last event was like an all-star event, and it was so cool because like everybody was there. I was like a fangirl of the community and everybody that's in it. Man, I would have loved to go to booth to booth to booth just to hang out. It was almost one of those events that was like should have been 3 days. It could have easily been all weekend long, and you're like, cool. I'm working all Saturday, but I get Friday and like Sunday to like chillax and like hang out with other
Well, it was
people.
an all day thing, and that's what I think. I think that's what made it cool. You know, like everybody's like focused and taking care of their booth, and making it happen. And I think one day was enough. A lot of us were burnt out after the fifth hour, and we pushed it to the sixth. But man, it was awesome. It was awesome to see a lot of people. A lot of people were like, "Man, I saw your video and I'm here." I'm like, "That's super cool, man."
I will have to say the amount of people that have come up to me and said, "Hey, I just got into fishing. I've seen all your guys' videos." Uh, that's really, something that I can be like, man, that's like, I mean, I'm like super stoked on it. It's really cool to hear somebody be like, "Oh yeah, I watched your videos." So we touched on it a little bit, talking about how I was doing seminars at the end. I wasn't really doing seminars, but if somebody wanted to talk about fishing, I was more than happy to do
So you
that.
did
I
like
always am.
little mini seminars.
But what I'm thinking about for the future is that would be really cool. Is even if I had bought like two booth spots, like one for the actual baits, but another one for Luke, you, me. I mean, really anyone. Let's
Dude,
say Gary had 5 minutes. Let's say T had 5 minutes. John had 5 minutes.
that would be
Caesar
sick.
had 5 minutes. Just come stop by the booth, grab a mic. Have it mic'd up and speakered, and just be like, "Hey guys, we're doing a seminar. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that would be really cool. Just for everybody to be like, oh, cool, Gary's doing an island trip seminar, what you might find in his tackle box.
Yeah, definitely. Where is he? Is he there already?
He said he's a minute away.
Okay.
Join from his car, so there's not feedback. So I don't have a mic or anything.
All right, guys. So for everybody who might have joined late or is just catching us now, Luke and Marshall you're in Bishop currently?
Yeah, I'm in Bishop. We were fishing up in Mammoth earlier today.
Nice.
Is Bishop considered the Sierras, or is it just once you kind of go up? Okay. So Luke and Marshall are in the Sierras. They're out fishing. They're on the ground. They got boots, pushing, getting dirt and everything. So we wanted to talk with them today, but Luke is having a little technical difficulties. But we got Marshall on, which is a lot of fun, really cool. We're gonna break down the Sierras scene a little bit, and then hopefully, if we get Luke on, we can talk about your guys' trip just in general and what's planned.
Definitely. Yeah. So
So,
I mean, Luke and I, we got to go by the shop where I work at, Rick Sports Center up in Mammoth. Got to do some cool videos of some rigging and stuff you guys should like.
nice.
So that'll be coming out soon. And then we checked out the river. We didn't get out to fishing till like maybe 3:34. I had to work today. So we only got to fish for maybe about an hour. That being said, we haven't got one yet, but it's coming tomorrow morning. So we're going to get out Crowley Lake tomorrow. I'm going to get Luke in the float tube. We got some fins for his big feet. So,
Sick. Dude. Float tube and Luke.
yeah.
Now, so you guys fish the streams, right?
Generally, no.
Or
We went by the Owens River today, but I'd tell you the Mammoth Lakes area and really most of the eastern Sierras is predominantly lakes. So you'll have small kind of creeks and stuff that connect. You have the Owens River. You also have the Walker River up out of Bridgeport. But the majority of it, I would tell you, is going to be lakes. I also find a lot of the times you'll find bigger fish in the lakes, depending on the time of year. So I think if you want to fish the Eastern Sierras effectively, learning like the still water tactics for fly fishing is pretty essential, in my opinion. Unless, some guys do like to just fish the river and that can be productive, but that's going to be, I'd say, more of a seasonal thing as far as the opportunities go. A lot of the fish you're targeting in the river are fish you're waiting for to come from the lake. So if you can figure out how to target fish deep in the summertime and then shallow in the spring and fall, you can do pretty well at the lakes out here. And then knowing kind of what aspects of the lakes to target is a whole other thing and kind of figuring out where they are. So
What's up, Luke?
yeah, welcome to the chat, Luke. Thank you,
Can you
Marshall.
hear us? You should just go on Marshall's house.
He might
I'm
be
going
frozen.
to.
yeah, just
Huh?
come on up.
I'm going to. I'm parking right now.
Just
Okay.
go up to his house.
Did you hear what I said?
No?
He's
I said I'm
parking.
going to.
Apparently he's
Oh,
parallel
okay.
parking. So Marshall, you guys went to the Owens River. Sorry. What part of the Owens River? Upper, lower?
We went by the upper today, so that's going to be above Crowley.
Is
generally,
the lower part still open or no?
yeah. So basically, the lower is going to be considered more like your Bishop territory south of Pleasant Valley Reservoir. So you'll have south of Pleasant Valley Reservoir is a wild trout section with special regulations, and then that'll end, and you still do have the Owens River south of that open. And then the river itself will stay open through the winter, even the upper Owens, but with special regulations. So you can do
I know
fishing,
about this.
in 3 feet of snow, catching those rainbows.
We're gonna have to talk about that because my dad gets back from Africa November, I want to say like 20th or something. So when that happens, we might need some spots of fish up that way. We'll hit you up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it gets more limited through the winter. But if you're depending on how much snow we get, you know, it can vary. Sometimes you need snowshoes to get to the river. Um, but other years, you know, it stays drier.
You know
But you
what?
do get a good fishing window throughout the winter time for sure.
I have one of the funniest stories. So my dad was looking to purchase a gun, but the only gun that or the gun that he wanted was sold in Bishop somewhere. It might have been sold a little bit further in Bishop or like further past Bishop. So we went at like a random time and then just pulled off and found a stream that we liked, went around, did all these things, and it was really cool. Like there was snow on the ground, super beautiful. Mount Whitney and all that stuff is just covered in snow. But for the most part, super beautiful, but also very slippery when you're fishing around snow and all that stuff. And then fishing the creeks too, it can get a little bit dangerous, a little bit scary.
Yeah, for sure. It depends on the year, you know. Sometimes and then you know when you get more snow, you get more water. So when you're fishing, you know, a river with higher flows, that's something to consider, especially if you're fishing like the Walker early in the season. That can get pretty tough to stand in or try to cross. But generally, yeah, I mean, most of what we have isn't going to be any wider than your average street.
Yeah.
Marshall, have you turned your phone yet?
Yeah.
Bam. There it is. What's up,
Now
Luke?
I'm a huge welcome to the chat,
What's
Luke.
up?
Hopefully you're doing well.
What's up?
This
We gonna
reminds
echo?
me of the first time we did Time on the Water.
Yeah, I'm gonna move so
Guys,
we
this
don't
is
echo.
episode 1.
Yeah,
So
so
what's up?
me and Charlie tested everything.
It was good.
We tested everything earlier today, and it's funny because when I was driving over to Marshall's, because it just wasn't working, I could watch my Wi-Fi my signal just pop up to 3 bars, down to 1, up to 3, down to 1, and just
Well,
that's what I think the problem was the fluctuation.
what a lot of people don't know about me is I was still in college when COVID really hit. And at the end of my like last year of college, they were like, all right, everything's remote, everything's going to be online. So I had to finish a semester and a little bit online. So for like a semester, I was fully remote, fully online. But what was cool about it is I went straight up to Bishop. I fished from like 6 to 6. I came down, and Bishop has a McDonald's that has free Wi-Fi. So you can log into it. And then from 6 to midnight, I would do all my homework, turn it in, and then I'd drive back up the mountain, sleep, and then fish the next day. So remote classes are awesome, kids. And Bishop
Just
is
sleeping in your
amazing.
car.
Yeah, I would. So the cool part is I didn't have to actually go into the McDonald's because the Wi-Fi,
Dude,
reached
Luke,
the
when you
parking
met
lot.
Daniel, he was still sleeping in his car, fishing all day,
I
every day.
remember.
Yeah, no, I used to. It was nice. I put a bed in the back of my car, so I can't complain. It
Going
was easy.
fishing late at night. I mean, early in the morning, right? So
Or late at night.
how's it been so far, Luke?
No, we
No,
don't.
I'm saying like experience-wise, man.
No, it's cool. When I was I want to say I was 19, maybe even 18, 19, I worked for a drywall company, and we got a contract up in Mammoth, and I came up for, I want to say like 2 weeks was hanging drywall, and I hated the town. I hated it. It was middle of summer. It was off season. There was only like really young kids or really old people. There was no one in that 18 to 30 range. And what's interesting though is being in Bishop more today. It's like, oh man, Bishop's a really cool town. Like there's a lot more to offer than Mammoth. Not knocking Mammoth either, because there's cool stuff up there, but I didn't realize how cool Bishop was.
Yeah, I think Mammoth has a lot more small businesses, so you get a little bit better shopping in Bishop. But yeah, I mean, it's cool kind of hearing how everyone kind of discovered their Sierra fishing. It's for me, it was, I came up to Mammoth to snowboard. And once I broke my collarbone and had some nerve stuff, I got shingles. And so I kind of needed another hobby that was going to allow me to still kind of get out and have that outlet. So I started to hike, and what you notice in Mammoth is everywhere you hike, you're going to find lakes. So after seeing all these lakes, I wanted more purpose in my hiking. So I figured out, okay, I'll learn to fish the lakes. And from there, the rest was kind of history. And that kind of took me, and, I've been addicted to it ever since. So
how was the return back home?
back to Bishop.
Yeah.
It's been good, man. The city moves a lot different than it does out here. It's a lot faster. I feel like I have a little bit more time. I'm still working the same, but I do feel like I'm able to take advantage of things a little more frequently. I have a lot of access to public land, so it's really easy for me to go and fish. After work, before work, I don't have to, go through a gate or, pay to get in somewhere or rent a boat. I have access to do a lot of stuff kind of at my disposal. So that's a big thing for me, is just making sure I have those outlets so I can be healthy and, be the guy I want to be.
Time is much slower, I believe.
Well, it's all,
Feels like it.
If you want to do it on the up and up and be legal, if you want to fish 4 days a week by us, you're going to pay $50.
Yeah. At least.
That's
what you're wasting on gas.
Alone. Parking's now like almost $20 to
do
a kiosk.
Parking's 12 in Long Beach, 15 in MDR.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
insane. That's what I'm saying. If you go 4 days, you're going to pay around $50.
That's if you pay for parking too.
That's exactly what I said. If you do it on the up and up, you're
if you're doing everything legit, if you're paying for parking,
if you're paying for parking like we all do, because we're not scoundrels,
they'll get you,
now,
man.
Marshall,
you don't put that ticket in there, they'll get you.
Oh, we know.
Well,
dude, I got a double whammy. I got hit with a ticket, and I didn't realize my registration was up. They gave me a registration ticket on top of it. The worst part is it was a Wednesday. It's like, come on, guys. The South Shore launch ramp's like the Wild West on Saturday, and you're over here ticketing people on Wednesday when they're ripping the gate off on Saturday.
Yeah,
that's because they can't do anything on Saturday. They have to give out their tickets Monday through Thursday. Yep. Friday through Saturday is just anyone's lawless land.
Dude, it gets crazy, man. Friday, the ramp is insane.
We were out there one Saturday. I think it was me, Greg, and Ronnie. As we were pulling out, 2 sheriff's boats and a Coast Guard were pulling in, and you can see cops coming into the parking lot. I don't know what happened, but we got in that evening. It was cleared out.
That's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. That's crazy.
But I didn't stick around to see what happened.
Yeah, it's crazy out there, man.
One of the things I was going to say, Marshall, is along with your move, you have goals and aspirations to lead us into the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, my goal right now is by the beginning of next spring, I'll be starting a guide service. So I'll be, doing trips on the river. We'll be doing some stillwater stuff. It gets a little more limited, unfortunately, we can't go guide all up into the Forest Service land without special permitting. That's really hard to obtain right now. But I will be, kind of starting to get my feet wet and, knowing that I've been, fishing the area for some time now, I feel, confident and showing people, how to get it done. So it's something I'm excited to kind of embark on, and we'll see where it takes me. And, hopefully it'll lead to bigger things. But yeah, we're going to try to get that going by this spring.
Well, someone's got to get those special permits. It might as well be you.
Yeah, you can try, right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it could be done.
Yeah. it's something to look
What
into.
what
I
is it
think it's
gonna
like,
what is it gonna take? Like, is it like look looking where to get them, or is it like funds? Is it what is it?
You
so
know
I
what it
know a
takes.
lot of like businesses have had the permit for a long time, so it's hard to
Gotcha.
get it now.
Like
So if
grandfathered
you
in.
don't, yeah, if you're not like already kind of grandfathered in that way, it's pretty hard. But it's something worth looking at. I mean, there is a lot of really cool opportunity in some of like even just the local lakes, 5 minutes from the town of Mammoth. Um, but you know, there's still a lot of really good opportunity outside of that on BLM land. So we have Crowley Lake, which is probably the most famous in the area. And that's kind of where we're all doing midge fishing with little tiny flies. And that's, I would tell you, probably the most productive fishery that we have access to. But then we also have the Owens River that we can access. And there's some stuff further north as well. So I'm gonna, you know, kind of look at everything and see what makes the most sense and kind of come up with the best game plan this winter. But ideally by this springtime, we'll kind of be a full go and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Now,
And just so you guys know, if you're interested, in the weeks coming up, I filmed a couple interviews with Marshall today and a couple how-tos and go-to rigs for spinner and fly. So that'll be stuff coming out in the future here. Kind
Get you
of
ready to
Eastern
get you
Sierras
ready to
breakdown.
get you ready to plan a trip with Marshall.
Yeah, man, I'll be available next year. I'm ready to get after it. So, you know, I'm young and I'm hungry for it. I'm still kind of uh, learning as I go, but it's a lot of fun, and you know, I've learned these waters pretty well now. So,
which is one of the fun things because Bishop is a very fish oriented environment, but economy. There's a lot of fish, well, trout, I should just say trout, that are stocked in the rivers, in the lakes. And then there's a healthy population of native trout amongst that because, you know, you just don't catch everything all year. And then, you know, it populates and grows like that, which makes it a phenomenal place to really, you can just stop and say, hey, there's some water over there. Let's go try and fish it. And then, you know, you can walk down or up the stream. So one of my favorite things to do with my dad is just find a stream and just go, all right, well, let's go fish it. Like, I don't know if
and
you guys have fished the San Gabriel River, but I mean that's a difficult place to fish in general, but that's so much fun. You just get to walk up it and you go, all right, there should be a trout right there, around right next to that bend where the trees overhanging the water and there's shade right there. They should be hiding right there. It comes in, boom. So it's always fun to be able to have a fishery like that where you can just pull off and be successful where you should be successful. In the notion of like there should be a fish there, and then you actually catch a fish there.
I would
Real
tell you
quick, Marshall,
that's
before you continue, sorry. What's your shop called where you work out of?
Rick Sports Center. Yeah, we're right on Main Street, kind of as you come into Mammoth Lakes on in town on your left there.
Right next to Shats.
Yeah. And going back to what Daniel was saying, though, I mean, that's honestly, in my experience, it's been the key to finding some of the best fishing spots that I have. And especially some of my biggest fish, too, you know, have come out of really unsuspecting places and places that, you know, no one told you to go fish at, but maybe you saw it on a map or maybe you drove by it and you said, huh, that looks like, you know, a good place to stop. So, you know, I think as much as we do have the Crowleys and, you know, Lake Mary and South Lake and Sabrina, you know, and those are always going to be go-to spots because, you know, like you said, we get a lot of stocking, you know, we get a lot of funding that goes into, you know, keeping those lakes stocked for the campgrounds and everything. So they are great fisheries. But the more you can kind of go off and explore on your own, the more you're going to stumble upon, you know, I think what this area really has to offer in terms of the types of fish it grows.
And that's the enjoyment, that's the enjoyment of that location all the way from the whole Inyo County, but all the way from Independence and further north in general, is that you have whatever level that you want to fish at. You have beginner, you have intermediate, you have advanced, you have, bushwhacking and waders right through the middle of the creek because that's the only way to get it. So it's a lot of fun because as you grow as a fisherman, you have different fisheries to, I guess, test your skill in. And then,
Yeah.
of course, you can go from bait and weight to artificial to fly fishing and just really appreciate that whole growth in yourself, but also just the beauty of nature in those locations, which I love the High Sierras more than anything.
Yeah, and there's truly thousands of lakes, and we always say, you can live here your whole life and you won't see them all because they're really endless. So that's a whole other aspect of it too. Is learning to hike further. Starting my hikes at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. so I can get to a lake. 14 miles out. It's all stuff that goes into like you said, stuff you can get better at. And I think that's what makes it fun is that you always have that challenge of how you can one up where you were before. And, that's been a
Then
big part of it for me.
what's and I just heard this quote somewhere like just recently, is it's not the biggest and it's not necessarily the most beautiful, but it's about the more. Like what can I do more? In the High Sierras, I mean, in that area in general, just it always has something to offer that is always the next step. And that's the most beautiful thing about that area is because first off, you have the whole John Muir Trail, which is 50 miles and you can fish along that whole thing. But because it's a 50-mile trail, there's only so many people that actually do it. But along those people, how many of them actually fish seriously? So you could do that as an actual fisherman, potentially go slower and break down the whole trail and be like, dude, some of these spots are amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even within that, you have local lakes that, okay, I want to beat my PB 6 pound rainbow, and then I want to beat my PB 8 pound rainbow. And so that goes on. And so I think you have, there's all sorts of goals you can set with fishing, no matter where you're doing it. And I think up here you do get the luxury of being able to go to new places whenever because there's endless. But yeah, it's just all about kind of finding ways to challenge ourselves, right?
I
Big
love it.
time. That's what it's all about. The challenge, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
I wanted to touch on something that Daniel said in the beginning of the conversation. It's knowing, those little spots, right? You notice something in the corner, you see a branch, blah, blah, blah. Those are little things that you identify by spending time on the water, right? If you've never seen that before, you won't know, You won't know that, oh, last time I caught a fish because there was a branch covering the sun,
Exactly.
you know?
And that's where I find, there is a lot of nuance in fishing the river, and it's something that I'm going to be kind of diving more into this winter, especially as all the lakes freeze up. But I do love the aspect of being able to figure out lakes because of things that I've seen before. And you will have that, with undercut banks. There's lots of situations in rivers where it still applies. But even when it comes down to like sonar, seeing what depth fish are at what time of year, knowing that this species spawns this time of year and, there's water coming in over here and there's a deep shelf where I can get down to 30 feet on this end of the lake. So it's all little things that you learn to look for. And then the more you do it and the more you spend the time on the water, then every other time you go out, you just become more and more successful because especially if you're hiking to a lake, you spend 3 hours trying to get there. You want to make every minute count. So, instead of walking the lake and finding the fish, you'll say, oh, okay, I see that steep drop off. I see that water, and I know exactly where I'm going to start because I have a better game plan because I've done this before, So it's the experience is the most valuable thing for sure.
And I think, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with me. I think that applies to any fishery you go to, right? Like, learn it, right? Go out, learn it, maybe you won't catch anything the first week. You go, who knows?
Well, Charlie, the thing I wanted to hone in was I've done this before. I think that phrase is a huge component to fishing.
Put
Is
that on a shirt.
I know I've done this before. At least my second rodeo.
So Luke, you guys are going float tubing tomorrow. I hear. You're on mute.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
How tired are you right now?
I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty hungry.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna kind of be like cooking up my dinner while we did the live, and I'm like,
well, what? Okay, so give us the breakdown.
I literally had like my coffee going.
Right.
I had my coffee boiling when I had to run back up here. We're gonna try to float tube. I'm a husky fella. I've been losing a little weight. I'm down to 450 pounds, so I could fit in the big float tubes that Waterman's Collective sells that Daniel has. I now fit in a float tube.
Wait, did you take the float tube?
No, and Marshall's float tube has a 300-pound weight limit.
So you know how to swim, right?
I know how to swim, but my waders are sketchy. They got big old boots attached to them.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna see if I can use a float tube at 150 pounds.
Dude, you better be recording that. You better be recording the whole thing.
Marshall, I need you from shore just like this. Like, all right, Luke, push off. Okay.
He's like, it's gonna work. I'm like, so I got to start by dunking myself into this cold lake in the morning to prove that we need to walk around.
Yeah,
we're gonna find out, but I can almost guarantee you it's gonna work. Those things
So
are.
it's a recommendation, man.
What's cool is we found fins that fit over the boots. So next time I can either take Daniel's float tube or I'll have my own by then. And the float tube thing definitely won't be an issue. And now having the fins that fit over the boots, we're set. So even if it doesn't work out this time, it's going to work out next time.
One of the hard things about in the water fishing is how cold the water is to start with. So you're like, okay, I want sweats, I want socks, I want long johns, I want a second pair of sweats, I want 3 pairs of socks. And then you start like waiting in 30 minutes and you're like, man, I got to start like, I'm
removing some layers. Layers.
I'm a real man, so none of that's a problem.
Sure.
Feel free to watch my shark video when I'm out there barefoot in board shorts.
Luke, you're barefoot in board shorts every day.
You're in SoCal. You're like in.
Well, what about when I was in Lake Pyramid this time last year?
You were wearing waders.
You were in a boat.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wearing waders.
No, he was in one of those weird float tubes. What is it called?
A one-man pontoon.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a boat. You're not in the water.
He was in the water.
A little bit. Yeah, your legs are.
It's like a float
Marshall's
tube.
like a little bit.
It's like a float tube, and you wear your waders.
But he's in the water though.
Yeah.
He still needs
It helps.
I'll believe it.
If you're
I'll believe it, real man. Man's
if you're
man.
kicking, you're gonna be.
Yeah, you don't need to wear layers until you get up to Utah. Come on.
Damn,
it's cold there.
Man. We'll find out. We'll go to Pyramid in the wintertime and we'll stand on the ladder for a few hours. But I don't know. I need thick socks. I gotta at least double up. And probably at least 2 pairs of sweats. I like to go PJs, sweats.
You saw those boots I have.
Me and you both.
Those will probably keep you warm. I don't know. Those are some thick boots.
Now, I really wanted Marshall to weigh in on this because I wanted to see what was normal and then what was Luke's normal. Because what's Luke's normal doesn't matter. Luke is a beast in his own right. So the fact that you're like, yeah, no, I want 2 pairs of sweats. I'm like, yes, I'm right there with everybody else.
I'm just saying the boots on my waders look like they're Wreck-It Ralph's boots.
You look like Wreck-It Ralph. Don't say that your boots look like Wreck-It Ralph when yourself look like Wreck-It Ralph.
But like Marshall saw my shoes and then saw the boots. The boots are like twice the size of my shoes.
Hey, that's what I'm gonna be saying from now on. You know how Wreck-It Ralph has the little hammer dude that fixes everything? I'm gonna be
Fix
the
it,
little
feel it.
dude.
That's you,
You're gonna be
Charlie.
That's
That's
Charlie. He's the
you.
hammer dude.
You're Fix It Felix, and he's Wreck It Ralph. You two, all right. There's your couple costumes for Halloween. If you two don't dress up as Wreck It Ralph and Fix It Felix, I am going to be severely mad.
We
just gave you a
already
couple
have
of
our
costumes.
costumes.
You already have it.
Yeah, Finding Nemo and Dory.
All right. Anyways, no, but so what's
I
the
have
plan
so
for
many
tomorrow?
questions.
All right, you guys gonna float to? You're not gonna go up to Reno. Are you guys still gonna go up to Reno?
I don't think so. I think we're gonna hit Crowley. We're gonna get out early. Kind of get there right as the sun's coming up and the midges start hatching. So that's what we're gonna be that's our main focus is the chronomid. It's like the bug that hatches. There's more of those than anything else in that lake, and even big fish eat them because there's a lot of them. So generally, you think big fish need a big meal. A lot of them do, but when you get thousands of those little bugs all day, they do pretty good in there. They're all pretty filled out.
I think had we got on them tonight, we might have considered Pyramid a little more, but with only having one full day,
Got to take advantage.
Well, it's a bit of a roll of the dice to go up there. Where if we stay down here,
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? We could
got a better
probably
chance.
fish. Well, we could probably fish at least 4 different places tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to Pyramid, we'd be getting on the road at like 2 a.m. So I mean, we'd be driving more than we'd be fishing. I'll put it that way. But I think it's something we got to plan for because I think doing it is worth it. You know.
Yeah, just not when it's the only day.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it makes sense. You know,
Yeah,
take
like
advantage of the full day.
Yeah, like if Marshall had Thursday off, potentially I'd stay one more day and we would do Pyramid. But it's cool because this is kind of like I'd say me figuring this out, right? As far as the logistics of getting up here, staying up here, camping, how cold do I want to deal with, that sort of thing. So
how cold is it right now?
It's not cold. It's really nice out right now.
There's
but what do you think?
times-
It's going to get into the, I'm guessing, low 50s, high 40s tonight.
I have to tell this story because it's so funny and I love it to death. So my dad and I are headed up to Bishop and we're packing the car. I have work all day. He's telling me everything that he's grabbed. He goes, I have, my clothes, my rods, my bags. I got 2 sleeping bags. I got this, I got that. And so he goes through the list. I go, all right, awesome, cool. I look at his list and then I bring everything that he missed, basically, and then some personal items. We drive up, we have a great time, and I go, and it's maybe April. No, probably June, to where it's still pretty cold. Like sometimes it still snows in June.
Yeah.
And we start setting up camp. I'm like, cool. I'm like, all right, where's my sleeping bag? And he goes, what do you mean? And I went, you said you brought 2 sleeping bags. He goes, yeah, I brought 2 sleeping bags for myself. What do you mean? He goes, did you forget your sleeping bag? And I went, you told me you had 2 sleeping bags. That means you have 1 for you and 1 for me. And he goes, no, I brought 2 sleeping bags for
For me.
myself.
That's what
So
I did
it
on this
can
trip.
get
I
cold
brought
up
2
there.
sleeping bags for myself as well.
Mm.
My last
But
trip, I forgot the sleeping bag. It was miserable.
Do you feel like you're gonna
Yeah.
need the 2 sleeping bags?
I don't want to need them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you plan for the worst, you hope for the best, but also you can snuggle into one sleeping bag and then use the other sleeping bag as like a blanket to go over. Almost like what you would do with a normal blanket or even like an emergency blanket or whatever. But regardless, it's so much nicer to be cold and warm, like the outside being cold and then sleeping warm, than freezing your hiney off all night long.
Or just
One of the
sweating
worst.
everywhere.
Actually, I have a couple of worst stories of my life, and they're all because I froze at night. That's just
Yeah, for sure. You'll
like
remember those nights.
like all the nights that I'm like the worst night of my life. Like every time I start a story like that, it's because I froze all night long.
Yeah.
Dude, our last camping trip, I forgot the blankets. Froze all night. Froze all night. And then the next day, because the kids had blankets, next day went out, got myself a blanket at the general store. And my son wakes
Expensive.
me up. He wakes me up and he's like, Dad, I just spilled my drink all over the blanket. Like, here, take mine. Take mine.
It's a good
Dude, can
dad.
you imagine if you're freezing? Imagine me.
I can.
I'll freaking
I
die,
can, Charlie.
bro.
I have
I'll freak.
So my cot has like a nice thick mattress. I got a cot, thick mattress, and a sheet. And it's a fitted sheet. So what I did on that trip is I went between the fitted sheet, and it was like just enough
He's
to
like a
keep me
little.
from crying.
That's better, yeah. Sometimes that little bit of fabric makes a big difference.
Dude,
Yeah.
anything. I think anything at that point makes it's better than having something.
I also forgot my jacket, so I couldn't just put a jacket on.
That's how you do it. When
Those
you
stories
forget
are
this
some
stuff,
of
you
the
just
worst to live through.
when you
So,
forget
yeah,
the
now I've
blanket,
got-
you just gotta sleep in the parka. That's how you do it.
Yeah. I didn't have the
Well-
parka either.
Yeah.
What we have to do, you turn on the car for like 10 minutes, heat it up, sleep for like 30, and then turn the car back on, re-warm it up, and then sleep for another 30 minutes, and then warm it
Well,
up.
You know, like right when the sun, there's like 20 minutes before the sun comes up where the temperature like takes a big dip.
Yeah.
That woke me up, so I actually went out to the car and ran and just slept in the car.
Scientifically, that is the coldest time of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys gonna start tomorrow at 3 a.m.?
No.
7 or 8.
Oh, okay.
We'll be fishing by 8, so we'll be out of here by like 6:40 or so.
And you guys are gonna be targeting trout. What else? Just
Calico
trout?
bass.
Bluefin, Charlie.
Calico bass.
You didn't know about the
barred
bluefin.
sand
Make sure you guys catch some sand bass. I heard they got some really good sand bass there.
Spotted sand bass.
Trout, your brown trout, and your rainbow trout. So you can get the slam if you get all three. And then there's also the Sacramento perch. So that's going to be a smaller. It doesn't look like a yellow perch. It looks more like a crappie, but it's gray. So those are in there too.
See.
What if you get a brook trout, a brown trout, and a rainbow trout? Is that anything?
I mean, it could be a slam. I mean, I don't
version?
really know.
No one's counting brook trouts.
Dang
it depends where you are. Yeah, so you're not going to get any brook trout in Crowley. It's just too low in elevation, I guess. It's interesting because you have creeks that connect to Crowley that have brook trout, but you'll never find the brook trout in there. They just stay higher upstream. But yeah,
how high is Crowley?
If I had to guess, it's probably right around like 8,500, maybe 8,000 feet. No, probably 8,500 feet.
Well, what would you say? It's like from Bishop to Mammoth. It's like 3/4 of the way up.
I mean, in terms of elevation, it's more than that, or it's higher up. So it's the grade coming up from Bishop is pretty steep. And I'd say by the time you get to the top of that grade, you're still like 20 minutes from Mammoth, but it's almost flat at that point. You have like a couple hills you go over.
Dude, our drive back, it was like we didn't even touch the gas pedal.
Exactly.
It was all downhill?
Yeah.
All downhill.
It's nice. And then you hit Bishop, and then driving home, it's just...
At that point, do you just put it on neutral so you won't waste gas?
No, you short shift, you downshift.
Yeah.
Not short shift, you downshift. So I think I was running in like 4th gear.
Yeah, my gears keep me just under the speed limit. So
yeah.
It's steep enough that neutral will put you at like 100.
Yeah.
So
well, I was in
about
4th gear hitting
trout.
like 70.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about golden trout because I think golden trout is what, 10,000 plus?
Generally, yeah. I'd say everything I can think of is like right around 10,000. Yeah.
So they're at a certain altitude.
What was that?
Yeah.
They live at a certain altitude.
Have I gone? sorry. So
Have you caught golden trout?
yeah. So I that's a big thing I like to do in every summer in the spring. They're spring spawners, so generally in the springtime is when you'll get them most active. I'd
Are
say
they
like
here or are you going lower?
I go everywhere. I go out of Lone Pine, I go out of Bishop, I go out of Bridgeport. Like I said, we
Sorry
have
to
like
interrupt.
thousands of lakes.
That's his special way of not letting you know where he
No,
actually
that's
gets the
not. That's
golden
not. I don't
trout, by
mean
the
like where do
way.
you do golden trout? I meant like, is
No,
there a
but
cutoff?
no,
Like, are they up in Mammoth?
They're everywhere. So yeah, you get them basically. So this was something interesting I was telling Luke earlier. So the trout that you have in the Mammoth Lakes area, technically none of those are native, right? The only native fish we have there is going to be the tui chub, which is a little sucker. And then all the trout have been introduced. So if you go north, you'll have native cutthroat. You also have the native Eagle Lake rainbows. And then if you go south, you have the native kern rainbows and the kern goldens. So you have all the native goldens come from California, but most of like the lakes you'll find kind of in our backcountry have been stocked either by plane or a lot of them were even stocked by like miners in like early 1800s.
That's very interesting. You said by plane.
Yeah, so they all those like backcountry lakes they'll get stocked by plane.
Like
Depends like
they'll land and like unload
they
them, or
just
like from the
they just
sky.
swoop. They just swoop and they let them out.
Yeah.
They'll fall in. Yeah,
And then
I have
people are
so
like, "That
many
was
questions.
a rough release you did on that trout," and it's like
yeah.
Well,
it
thank you,
wasn't a
Luke.
plane.
That's
You know
exactly
how
what I
It
was about
wasn't
to
a
say.
plane.
You know how much people complain?
Well, remember how much people complained on that one calico I threw back? I did like a big old toss, and we got all this hate comment. And you said having your comment that made everyone kind of stop was like, "You've jumped in the water before, right?" Like we didn't throw it onto cement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
they
guys.
seem to do okay. But the cool thing about a lot of them is they're not stocked as often as your stocking trucks are going to your resort. So what ends up happening is it might get a stock once every 5 years or 7 years, right? And what that does is it makes in the long run you get a predominantly wild fishery. So you get a lot of fish that start recreating in that lake. So while you don't have your native fish, you do have your wild fish. So you'll get, those big browns that you see, a lot of those, are either wild fish or, maybe they were stocked, but they've held over so long and they've been eating natural food for so long that, at that point, it's some people care more than others, but
Hey,
I think just,
you should take your little grill, Luke, and catch a trout, cook it up. You know,
yeah, you
I'm
got the
that'd be
bringing the
grease.
cool,
grill.
dude.
We already talked about it. I'm bringing the grill. I was like,
Catch and
forget
Luke's
cook.
gonna
making
be
sandwiches. I don't know if we're gonna catch and cook or not, but we're gonna bring asada. We're
Luke's
gonna
gonna
bring
be
some carne
on the
asada.
float tube with a propane tank and a little grill on the float tube. He's gonna catch it, flip it up. It's gonna land on the grill. He's gonna whole grill a fish just like that.
I had a guy that wanted to book a trip with me, and he said, "You cook up burgers?" I said, "No, I don't cook up burgers." He said, "Well, can't you just throw a little grill on the back of the boat and make us some burgers?" And I was like, "Bro, it's a 6-hour trip."
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, it's a 6-hour trip. If you need a burger, I can direct you to the Monte Carlo, and they have wonderful twilight trips with burgers. I, on the other hand, will be chasing trophy calicos.
I can't believe it. Like
Yeah.
he wanted
And
you to cook burgers.
hold on. He said, "Don't you want to make money?" And I was like, I am making money. I don't.
Yeah.
That's
So Luke,
hilarious.
Next
Dude.
time Charlie and I go out with you, we're cooking burgers.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's fine.
he's not gonna cook them, right?
Well,
It's gonna be us.
even if I do cook them, it's like, what am I gonna have a dude fishing off the back of the boat while I'm like, scoot over, man? I'm flipping burgers here for your
All the
6-hour
smoke,
trip.
they're facing into the wind, so all the smoke's coming back this way.
Dude, that's so hilarious.
Looks like the boat's on fire.
Don't you want to make money?
Not flipping
Did he go on your
burgers.
trip though?
I wouldn't let him book it.
You gonna DM me about some burgers, bro? You can't come on my trip.
No, it got too
Wild.
it's just like it sounds like it's going to be an issue. Like there was
Yeah.
more than that. There was more than that.
All right, we don't have to go into
I'm
detail.
gonna have to
No.
hear this story off the
Offline, offline.
because this is the first time I'm hearing about this.
I mean, it was just one thing after another. Like, well, can we go out and get some rockfish? And
Can we keep it?
not even that. Like, is
Not-
a nighttime breakwall charter targeting trophy fish? Like, we don't always get a trophy, but that's what we're targeting. We're not bumping out to Isers to fill up some sacks real quick. It's just not the program. And then, how much was I going to charge per fish to clean up? It got to be too much.
He thought you were gonna be cleaning fish at the end of the trip.
Well, I was like catch and release, and he's like, well, no, we'll pay you to clean them. I'm like, we're not releasing them because I'm not getting paid to clean them.
Yeah, I had a gentleman ask me for a color or like what I had on stock. I sent him the colors. He said, I'd like this green color. I said, hey, I just want to let you know the picture you're referring to it's a white with a green lateral line and a clear belly. The white's kind of, transparent, which is why it looks a little green. And so I'm trying to tell him it's white, green, and clear. And he goes, yeah, but it looks green. I like, it's green. I'm like, it's not green. I poured the color. I'm the creator of the color. It's not green. I'm trying to tell you that the product that you want is not what you think it is. I just want you to be aware of it. And so after a while, I was just like, we're done with this conversation.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, you're arguing to me about a color
that I
I
made.
pour. Yeah.
So Marco, are you
Michael,
gonna be?
how are you?
Are you gonna be providing all the gear when you start doing the whole charter stuff? I mean
Yes.
the guiding stuff.
Definitely. So I'll have waders, rods, whatever we need for what we're doing.
That's so cool, man.
Now,
all you'll need to bring is a fishing license. That's the one thing I can't provide.
Is it going to be fly
Well, if
fishing
they come into the
only,
shop,
or are
you
you
can
going to
provide it.
offer other things?
Yeah, you can always buy one from me at Rick Sports Center in Mammoth, but it's not something I can do for you necessarily. So
Well,
that's cool. Daniel said, "Are you going to be doing only fly fishing or both?"
just fly fishing, yeah. It'll just be fly fishing. I'm still kind of deciding exactly what that'll entail. I'm going to see kind of, what opportunities there might be in the valley for maybe some warm water species. So if that's interesting to anyone, that's something that I personally love to do. I know a lot of people come to the Sierras for the trout, so that's something I'm going to be, mainly focused on. But I love doing all the warm water stuff as well. And doing.
Are you trying to keep the warm water species a secret? Is that why you're not naming them?
No, I'll tell you the species. Yeah, I mean you got your largemouth bass, your smallmouth bass, your big bluegill, catfish, carp.
So even though it's mainly trout up here, there's the cool option of like, I've got the trout game dialed. I came and fished trout for 3 days, but maybe on my way out I want to book with you and hit some bass because I don't have my bass game dialed.
That's something that I would definitely be open to, and you don't have as many barriers with the Forest Service fishing down in the desert, so I think that would be something that I would be open to for sure. Yeah.
So what is the forest thing the guy is looking for? Like, what are they dinging you for?
Just the permitting to be able to guide that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just because it's national forest, it's just different. And then we have BLM land in California. For that, I just need my guide license and I can get that going. And then, yeah, I mean, from there, I'll be able to try to look into some more of that permitting stuff. I know it's been hard to get, but I want to make my trips pretty flexible in terms of the client. So, if someone has something in mind or something specific, I'm going to do my best to work with them to make that happen. So, I would say that, I'm going to be as flexible as I can within where I can fish,
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll get a couple videos going, kind of showcasing what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So is it going to be, I know I asked Luke this question. regarding his charter trips for fly fishing. Are you gonna do seasoned anglers only, or are you gonna be able to teach people how to cast and stuff?
I can teach for sure. Yeah. One thing I'm not sure about. I know a lot of guys will do like casting lessons. I think I can do a lot of that stuff on the water. So I think, ideally we just get into a situation where we get out and we start fishing and we learn as we go. And I think that that's probably the best way to learn it. If I'm being honest, I think having the experience of, even if you miss 5 fish, you're going to learn what you did wrong each time. So that all helps. And I think being able to just, if we have the water accessible like we do, we should just go and use that. But as far as skill level, it's simple. I know a lot of people get overwhelmed with, the whole fly fishing and the line going everywhere, but it's a fairly simple thing to do. You could do it as a 5-year-old, I'm sure. So,
Charlie was doing it the other weekend.
I'm like, damn, don't make me feel bad. I don't think I was doing that great.
You were doing good.
Doing it in the salt's different, Charlie.
No, we were doing. I went to go visit Luke. He had a booth at the, what is it called?
The double haul ball. But no,
The
you had a saltwater setup.
Oh, okay.
Like you were literally fishing the hardest setup there is to throw.
Oh, got you.
Like Luke did the type of casting that we mainly do around here today. It's a roll cast. And I mean, he could speak for it. I mean, I think it might take a little bit of like getting down the timing, but
yeah,
it's nothing fancy. You're just flicking it out there.
So with the lighter line, you're saying it's easier to cast?
It's not lighter.
It is lighter though. It's way less physical.
Oh, compared to the saltwater, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's the weight. The line weight is different, right?
Yeah.
It's a very light movement. Where in the saltwater, we're like when you get behind you, you feel all that line come tight and then come back. Like you really feel it. You're not feeling it like that. It's much more finessey, and I don't want to say simple because that oversimplifies it, but it's not complicated. It's if you're paying attention.
Yeah. Frank from Frank Fly Shack, he guides too in the salt, right, Luke? Like in the salt. He was doing it, man. He was just like effortlessly like flinging that fly,
And it's not always about distance either. It depends what you're doing. Sometimes being accurate can help you. I'd say bass fishing, generally, I find that to be more important. If I see like, a tree's hanging over a shady spot in a cove and I want to put my stuff right underneath there, that's where it can be really important, I think. On the river too is another place where accuracy can matter.
I would say on the river, that's where I was having a little bit of trouble. It's not necessarily getting the cast in. It was like when you're dealing with trying to get it, in the left-hand quarter of a 4-foot river, and you've got this little 6-inch pocket you're trying to land it in. That's where it gets a little tough.
And it's amazing how much the 6-inch difference can be when it comes to hooking a fish, or
even just getting it to roll down that deeper spot without getting stuck.
Yeah. And yeah, the river's totally, the way that you view the river is everything's moving, right? So you got to cast up in front of everything. Kind of, I'm sure, similar to, fishing the wall in a lot of current, I'd imagine,
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have that effect of just sweeping by everything. So you got to kind of take into consideration that I'm not casting where I want my hook to be. I'm casting where it's going to take my hook, 6 feet down or however long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool today. We saw like a dozen little trout. They were just super spooky. Like they'd go running off while we were making our cast. We saw somewhat like 6-inch craws. They were really cool looking. You could see like little green between the plates. Mm-hmm. And they were. I never seen. I wasn't expecting to see craws in a little creek.
Yeah,
that was
that wasn't even the river either.
They live in little creeks.
Yeah, it was
I thought they lived in lakes.
No, they live in creeks. Yeah.
We learn something new every day.
All right, guys.
They had some good tails on them.
The crawfish?
They're delicious, by the way, to eat. You should have grabbed him, slurped him up, had a crawfish boil.
The trout will go
When-
after them. I don't know if it'll work on the dolphin craw with like a 1-0 hook, but if you can get like a trailer off the back of that thing, you know, maybe go with like a little like size 8 single hook, just kind of off the shank. You might be able to throw the dolphin craw in the river for some.
That's one of the hard parts. Is it's like you could throw a larger bait for trout, absolutely, but figuring out a hook to fit the bigger bait, but also the trout's mouth
Exactly.
is wild.
And they like
However,
to swipe. They don't all. It's not a bass that's gonna eat it. You know, they're gonna hit it from the side. They're gonna hit the tail. So you want
Well,
that.
dude, they hit big old Lucky Craft 110s.
Yeah, you got to
You
do
know?
like one of those treble hook
I caught
free-floating
one on a
rigs.
Senko. I was fishing bass on the Texas rig. Set the hook. I thought it was a bass, and I was like, "Oh heck yeah!" Wound it in. It was a trout.
I'll give out this secret. If you're a conventional guy and you want trophy trout, get all your Rapala 13s, get your big baits, and you know, fish them early and fish them late. You know, Monongalia County you can't fish at night, but you know, there's big predatory fish in a lot of lakes, and there's very, very few people throwing big baits like that. So it's not something they see all the time. That's kind of an untapped fishery there in terms of.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Time on the water secrets.
Yeah.
Exposed.
Now we know what Charlie's doing this weekend.
I'm going to throw big baits at trout.
All right, you guys, I got to get going. Appreciate you guys for hopping on. Marshall, much love. Luke, same to you.
You guys
be safe up there.
Have a safe trip.
Yeah, don't freeze. You
don't
freeze yourself.
I got to go get my fire going and start cooking dinner.
Hey, make sure you record your float tube adventures. If you are going to get on the float tube,
I'm going to record everything.
There you go.
I recorded us skunking today.
There you go. That's the spirit.
And what fuels each and every one of our skunks is our love for fishing in general.
Loving fishing.
Our facts of fishing.
Our facts of fishing. Guys, if you stuck this long, all 14 of you guys.
I'm sorry for you if you've stayed this long.
We love you guys. We love you guys. We love you guys. Like
peace
Daniel
out,
said,
everybody.
Marshall,
love you guys. Be safe.
See you guys.
I can't wait to hear about the rest of your journey.
Luke, peace. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you guys.
Later.